So I want to show you this screenshot that I took from Fightful, and I will include the article. What happened was, Colin Tusser of Fightful has transcribed of the interview of Stephen New had with from a YouTube channel, and there's something that I want to read you guys this part and Tony Khan's response, and also want to share a fan who also had to say something about this. Anyway, this is what Stephen New said. He's in part of this article. It says here, New later responds to Jim Ross, who said that the lawsuit was frivolous. New claimed that Ross was part of the problem due to his work as the head of talent relations in WWE. He also claims that Ross was being paid to do nothing in AEW. This is what New said. I need to make a response. Jim Ross, called this lawsuit frivolous. Well, let me tell you something, Bola. This is not a frivolous lawsuit. You're part of the problem. You, Jim Ross, are part of the problem because you fed the guys in WWE as talent relations these crap contracts for a quarter of a century. You told these guys that it was take it or leave it deal, and that they need to sign these crap contracts that were contracts of adhesion, and that they should never signed. They should have lined in the attribution provisions out of it. So I'm not shocked in the least that you go on Conrad Thompson's podcast and you say that this is a frivolous lawsuit. I might lose it by God, it's not frivolous. I can tell you that. Tony Khan pays JR a lot of money to do nothing for about 5 years. If I was Jim Ross and I was living in Jacksonville Beach and making a bunch of monies to do nothing much at all, I'd probably come out and call Stephen P. News also. Oh, everybody's got a price. What New had said. I don't know what that was. So before I let you guys see what Tony Khan said, and of course there's a fan who also responded to this. And like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but what New is saying is really not a good thing. First of all, what does Jim Ross's time in WWE have to do with the situation where New's clients are going after AEW? It doesn't really. Wait. Because as far as I can tell, Kevin Kelly and the Tate twins are going after AEW. And at least Tony Khan. And like I said, what does Jim Ross's time in WWE have to do with the lawsuit? It doesn't really. New is making up a lot of crap. In fact, if you ever do come across his account on Twitter or X, be very careful, okay? Because he made a wild claim on him that he's trying to get everybody who works in AEW, WWE, and TNA Wrestling to join into this ridiculous lawsuit. And tell you the truth, I mean, nobody has. But until Kevin Kelly and the Tate twins retain him And then Steven News claims that every AEW wrestler is part of this lawsuit, which, by the way, it sounds so dumb. And the other thing, he says here that he goes on Conrad Thompson's podcast. It is not Conrad Thompson's podcast. It is a podcast that Jim Ross does, but Conrad Thompson is his co-host. In fact, Conrad Thompson is upon nearly almost every podcast out there. Well, except, and what I mean by he's part of Jim Ross's, Jeff Jarrett, I know. Actually, I don't know if there's also another podcast, probably also hosted, probably also run together with Conrad Thompson, probably Chris Hero. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on this. So, yes. So, what I'm trying to say is Conrad Thompson handles the hosting for it. He's the co-host for a couple of podcasts. But Steven News claims, it's Conrad Thompson's podcast. Technically, it isn't. So, yikes. So, this is a big yikes. But like I said, if you guys want to see it, it will be in the description down below. But let me read you guys Tony Khan's response to this as he posted on social media. This is Tony Khan's response. He says, I just read Stephen P. News' comments about Jim Ross. I am shocked and appalled by these comments on legend Jim Ross, part of AEW's foundation. Someone so important from the beginning of AEW and still right now today. AEW, Jim Ross and I reserve all rights. And then, of course, he decides to shell out for tonight's show. And he says, see you tonight at #AEW All Out. Okay? Alright, that's just simple. However, our wrestling fan, Air Gold, or just for him as Air, responded that about what Tony said and the comments that News said. They said here, it is public knowledge that JR has been dealing with a number of health issues, including cancer and, the coof, which has kept him away from the commentary desk. Despite these challenges, he has continued to lend his voice to some of AEW's biggest moments. To say he has been paid a lot to do nothing is flat out wrong. Agreed. I mean, it's point out of evidence. And I will say this. He was in London for AEW's All In London, and which he casted the he was on commentary, commentating the main event with where Bryan Danielson and Swerve Strickland wrestled each other for the AEW title. In fact, I would say that I guess in defense, it was considered to be one of the greatest matches. I will say almost in time. In fact, you compare that to Kenny Omega's match against Kazuchika Okada in New Japan for the NWJP / IWGP Heavyweight Championship, where those guys wrestled for over an hour, right? And ended up that Kenny had won. Now, and it was really crazy. But yes, I would have, yes, that's ridiculous. And Air has a point here. It's because Jim Ross's health issues that he's been going through is preventing him to be on the desk. It has nothing to do with... So, what Stephen New is saying is completely garbage. See, this is what he said. It's because he claims that Ross being paid to do nothing AEW is a bunch of BS. And Aaron brought up the point, that is that Ross has not been doing well. He's fighting things, okay? But New won't see that. He says that Ross is doing nothing. He's been paid by AEW like this. And he's the part of the problem because of what he had done in WWE. Again, and what does Ross's job, his former job in WWE, have to do with the lawsuit? I mean, am I wrong? Is this guy saying things ridiculously? I mean, Tony Khan's is right. So is Air. New, on the other hand, is being ridiculous. I mean, seriously. For those who don't know what New is saying here, he claims that Ross was talent relations. Well, Ross had that, but I think things shifted and to somebody else to be running talent relations. But I forget who. I don't know who ended up taking over from Ross. I know currently it's right now. How do I say this? Currently, I believe it's Triple H who's head of talent relations. I believe. In WWE, I'll have to look this up. But anyway, Ross was dealing with running talent relations while he was doing on commentary. But I think that was changed, and I think somebody wanted Ross to just focus. Now, I will say, even though despite he was head of relations, I'm pretty sure the contracts were probably the way how Ross set up contracts was probably proved out by since there's some time for Ross, I would say the contracts were proved by Vince McMahon. I'm not 100% sure if this is true, but I will take this with a grain of salt because everybody knows that Vince is already having issues himself. But I just want in case anybody who would say anything about this. But as far as I can tell you, what's going on with this comment about Jim Ross is very disturbing. And what Tony Khan just read here, what I read from Tony Khan here, and what Eric Gold said, yeah, it's really kind of crazy. But it's just that it's just that what Stephen New is saying is really hostile. And I have to agree. Because Ross has been there. I mean, after all, the craziness that went down for what happened with Jim Ross and WWE was really bad. And I mean, so I don't know how to explain this, but for those who need to hear about this, how do I summarize this? I don't know what led WWE to get rid of Ross, but I don't know what I'm just trying to understand this, but what happened to Jim Ross was bad. What happened was somebody, I think, I still don't know if this is entirely true, but what I heard was that Ric Flair did something badly, and I don't know, there was a lot of chaos happen, and for some reason, Jim Ross was to blame, and for some reason, Dudley ends up firing him. Even though I don't know if that's true or not, but as of late, he's working with AEW. He's being treated well in AEW, despite he's been battling a lot of health issues, which are definitely pointed out. And I believe that. I believe that is true, because Ross says that he's been dealing with a lot of things going on. No matter if you see his account or listening to Grillin' JR with Jim Ross and Conrad Thompson's on the podcast together. I mean, it's just the truth out there. I mean, seriously. I mean, so I don't know why Stephen New is attacking Ross for his comments and says that what he has done in WWE is causing this lawsuit. It's really ridiculous. It's just, you can ask any other lawyer and probably they'll agree with me. And like I said, I'm not a lawyer. What Stephen New is saying is probably not good. But for Khan responding, I don't know if it's a good thing. I don't know if he got permission to say that. I mean, people are wondering if he should say that or not. I mean, if it is, that's good. If it's not, this just might be a big yikes. So you can check out Tony's social media account. As you can see there, it's on on X. But I have to agree with Tony's saying. It's really wild. So there you go.